Laurence Tubiana, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me. I want to begin with the upcoming G7 summit in Quebec. Uh, what do you think the leaders who are meeting are going to need to talk about in terms of climate change?
I think G7 is still a very important place to really engage in the conversation and maintaining climate change high on the political agenda. That's very important. One, because that's the seven more developed countries at world level, and because that, in a way, is conducive for a more broader conversation with the major economies of the G20 that will take place in Argentina. So we need to have a resolve in the major economies of the world, the more developed ones, to keep thinking that climate is a decisive, really challenge we have to tackle. So I'm really hoping that the Canadian government will certainly find a way. We know, of course, the difficulty with the United States position. At the same time, we see an extraordinary mobilization of the U.S. society to really go and really do transformation on the ground. You have major states, Texas, for example, which is really producing now an enormous amount of renewable energy. So we have the evolution of the real economy. And if G7 can translate that feeling that the real economy on clean mobility, the electrification of transport, now really clean energy being now much, much cheaper than any fossil fuel-based energy, that could be a connection between the future looking. Finally, I think the G7 should mention that, of course, transformation is difficult immediately. That's fine. So we have to have a plan, a long-term vision, to see how this low-carbon economy will be deployed over time, and that's the sense of the vision that we hope these leaders to have.
Well, certainly here in Canada, there's a tremendous political debate taking place over carbon pricing and whether that is essential to meet the goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. How do you see the debate around the world between governments looking to put a price on carbon to reduce emissions and the opposition that they're seeing?
Well, when you look at world level, even if it's difficult in many countries, and probably in Canada there is a huge debate around price on pollution, you look at the countries and this is happening more and more. So there is a trend there. Even so with different forms, there are different forms in Japan, in India, in China, but all countries are moving with the idea pollution cannot be free, because if not, it's unfair for the people who are suffering from it and who are not producing it. So I understand the difficulties, and we see so many examples in countries. I think of Sweden, for example, a major industrial economy, not just some country producing services, where the carbon price is 150 euros a ton, and the Swedish economy is booming. So I think, again, it's difficult in every country. I think it was very interesting and really straightforward for Canada to take that decision. But it's a global trend. And we'll see the carbon market in China, which would be very soon the biggest economy at world level, is now taking place. So everyone should be looking at the future and not back.
Right, and speaking of looking at the future, countries like Canada, France, the United Kingdom have all committed to reducing their emissions, committed to meeting the targets of the Paris Agreement that you were a key instrument in helping to negotiate as far as temperature targets. But we've seen difficulty, countries reporting that they haven't quite gotten to meeting those targets yet in terms of reducing their emissions. So how confident are you that governments are going to have the will and even the mandate to continue along to try and meet what the Paris Agreement has set out?
I think we need to produce a massive information on public and citizen, because if not, people don't understand and feel that it's difficult, it's not for development, not for economic growth. That climate change is contradictory to further economic development, food to jobs, and that's not true. So I think we are lacking there. We are just focused on some elements, on numbers, on targets, on carbon emission reduction, and not looking that it is a transformation of the economy. And that's a very good transformation, because again, clean energy is so cheap now, much cheaper. That's why it's very good that Canada has embarked on powering past coal. And so I see that now I think we have to speak the truth to the citizen, that Paris is not an agreement, is a condition for continuing economic development, and government should be true to their commitments, and they should consider that they are ruining their own economy if they don't do in that direction. So this is, in my view, lacking on the political debate today. Probably, I don't know very much the politics in Canada, but certainly I see in every country, I don't think that Canada is an exception, that the public is not fully informed of the risks that are really going with climate change and with the economic opportunities who are in front of them.
Okay, well, we'll certainly watch the debate as the G7 leaders meet in Quebec and going forward throughout the rest of the year. Laurence Tubiana, I thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.